The new Mantis X10 firearms performance system has all the goodness of the original, plus holster draw analysis and recoil analysis. It's a fantastic upgrade and I recommend it highly.
Hey guys, Brian Hill with the Complete Combatant, bringing you the final in our series of videos for the new gun owners and how you should practice what's good for dry fire. Today we're going to work on how to use the trigger, how to see our sights, and how to follow through. Sights and trigger are synergistic. They are combined. One doesn't exist without the other. When you're seeing the sights, that will tell you how fast you can press the trigger. You can only press the trigger as fast as you can keep the sight moving inside the target that you're trying to shoot. So what tells us how fast we can do something? It's a lot like driving. If you're on a small road with lots of potholes, and there may be another car coming the other way, you have to go really slow. You have to be more thorough, methodical. If we're on an 8-lane highway, then we can really pick up our speed. So the size of the target determines how quickly we can use the trigger, or how carefully, or how precisely, as Tom Givens likes to say, we can use the speed on our trigger. For most of us, though, honestly, we only have one speed. Okay? You either fall in one camp or the other. All right, and this is where a lot of debates start to happen. If you're an accuracy first shooter, you're a very structured person, and as long as you're not rushed or hurried and you have enough time, you'll try to make a most perfect shot you can, and you won't be satisfied until they all go through the same hole. I speak from experience. If you're a speed person, you will always try to do it as quickly as you can. You enjoy that activity, that chaotic nature of going really quick. What you tend to lack is patience. So if you find yourself going too fast, you need to have a bit of patience. Now notice I didn't use the word slow. Slow doesn't change anything. If you slow down to get your hits, all you're doing is slowly making the same mistakes. We have to improve our visual ability to see what's going on. We have to really cue into it. Remember, sights are nothing more than symbols, and they tell us the symbology of where the bullet's going to go. So if I have these two things, somewhere in there, in that moving picture, movie is going to be where the bullet goes. So I need to pay attention to those. If my target is big, like I have this whole humanoid to shoot, then I can shoot pretty quickly, all right? Especially if he's close, I can shoot very quickly because it's not going to make a huge amount of difference. So I don't need to take a lot of time to line that shot up, but I need to take that quarter of a second to see my sights. There's a very fine line there. Now if I had to make a headshot, well, this is a very small target, but if I'm fairly close, it becomes careful. I just need to be careful to put it in this ocular zone, all right? But if I had to make an extremely difficult shot, maybe it's this size. It could be that size because he's 25 yards away. Or he's directly in front and you only have a small area to shoot. Somebody you care about is in front of him. So the targets change size because there's something in the way. Remember our fourth rule, be sure of your target and what's around it. We've got to identify that target, and if there's somebody in front of it, we certainly can't shoot them because we don't have enough time to aim, but we have to do it in a hurry because something horrible is happening. So these sizes will tell you how fast to go. So what changes the size is distance, something blocking or obscuring part of the target, okay? That's it. And itself, maybe the target is very small. So you've got to practice this in dry practices, having different ways to address the trigger and see the sight moving. Now, people get caught up on what sights they should have. There's no way that I could recommend sights for you because we all have different eyesight. All right? My personal choice is a red dot sight. Okay? It allows me to be target focused and it superimposes the red dot on it. It's also taught me a lot because there's a lot of information in that moving dot that I have to process, and the speed of my processing has really picked up. I've been able to see more, and funny enough, it's made me a better iron sight shooter. Okay? If you shoot iron sights, people are like, you have to have night sights, you have to have this. Simply not true. Night sights only work well twice a day, and that's twilight and dusk. If you can't identify your target, you certainly can't shoot the sights, so you're going to need to have some sort of light. So if you notice on my DP9, all right, we've got all our safety precautions in there. But I also have a weapon-mounted light. If I lived in the country and there was no lights around me, this becomes very important. I'm going to identify that. So night sights really don't become important at all. So you're choosing what you can see. I like to have an iron sight, something colorful on the front. I prefer green. My eyes see green better. And then I like the back sights to be blacked out. Okay, so that gives me, but I can understand fiber optics, I can understand tritiums, I can understand night sights. I just don't want it too busy. Okay, 3 dots gets a little busy for my eyes, so I tend to black the dots in the back out, and just that way I can't see them. I can only see the front dot. All right, you know, Glock's ball in the basket. I've never particularly preferred that sight, but it's a symbol. It communicates to me in a picture, and you have to find a picture that works for you and communicates for your eyesight. Do you wear glasses? All right. Do you have an astigmatism? All right. Are you colorblind, or as they like to say now, color deficient? Those things really matter. All right. Do you see well? Are your eyes aging? All right. Do you shoot indoors a lot? Do you shoot outdoors a lot? Those things will be very different when you change locations. So sights are up to you. It's a symbol that you need to understand how it works. All right. So got my SIRT pistol here. You know, we're going to put it in a notch and we're going to try to make it equal on each side. All right. And if I'm shooting a target and say I was shooting the center of this, well, I'd be able to do that pretty quickly. I could come up and I'm going to use a quickly trigger speed. And that looks something like this. I don't want to jam it or mash it. I'm just going to press and release, press and release, press and release. As the gun cycles, I want to be ready to shoot again. If I press, hold, gun cycles, and then slowly release, simply not gaining anything for that waste of time. All right, so quickly. Now, what about carefully? I'm going to shoot a headshot. So as I dry practice, I'm coming up and then, so that becomes about, instead of a quarter second, it becomes about a half second for me. Okay, come up. So I'm getting a good practice on that. Now, I want to shoot this very small circle. Maybe I'm making an ocular zone shot and I've got to put it right here. There's somebody in front of them. It's a very difficult shot. So I'm going to take about a full second on this part time. And I'm going to precisely press the trigger. I want to keep the trigger moving at all times. So quickly looks like this. Okay, carefully looks like this. And precisely looks like this. Don't stop the wall and try to hold it. Get your finger moving, be consistent, continually clean up and watch what's going on with your sights, and you'll have a better shot. So we really want to see it, we want to clean it up, and boom. If I'm going to go quickly, it's like that, carefully, like that, and precisely like that. Now that's a matter of distance and size of the targets. Okay, I'd suggest getting 3 targets and practicing how quick you can do that from a low ready and then from the compressed position. All right, coming out, because we want to get everything together. How does that look? Boom, quickly, carefully. Now, what most people will trade on carefully is they'll slow down how fast they move the gun. This part should always be quick. It's the trigger that should be smoother and slower. All right, not slower. You know, it's hard to get away from that word, but we are moving with as much time as allowed. Remember, there's always a time. If you watch John's videos, he's given us a great library of videos now that we know that you probably need at least a 2-second draw in these situations. There's really a certain limit in being able to do that. And the better you can do that, the sooner you can draw the firearm, the longer you have to look at the sights and clean them up. And that'll be determined by the size of the target. So when we're here, that's just careful. All right? And when I go to this position and I'm going to be precise, I'm just keep moving. There's no stop, but keep moving. Remember, if you don't measure these things with par times, of course, you won't know how bad you are. That's a big part of it. And some people really don't want to know. They would rather just guess and think they're okay. But the good side of that is once you begin to measure things, you also will see your progress. So is your training working? And every measurement reveals your progress. If you look at my targets, there's a bunch of times and things up here. Every time I hit a new record, I put that on the board and I see it every day and it presses me. And some of these are quite old now, and I've moved quite far past it. And what it does is it gives me more visual patience when I need to make the shot. I also know how exactly fast I can go before the wheels fall off. And that's really important. How fast can I go before everything goes to pieces on how big of a target, all right, and how much accuracy. You don't get to choose speed or accuracy. You really need both. That's shooting, all right? I need to be able to do quickly and efficiently what I'm going to do. Now, let me make a confession here. I'm not the fastest guy in the world. Despite a long history in martial arts, I've never been known for my speed. I'm just not explosive. There's guys like Gabe White, Scott Jelinski. Man, when they go to draw their gun, it looks like they've been electrocuted. I simply don't have that kind of speed. And I honor them. They're very good. So how do I catch up with them? Well, I make sure I get rid of everything that doesn't matter in my draw. I become as efficient as I can. So when I get ready to practice that, I make sure I get rid of any movement that's not necessary, get it out of the way, and then when I draw the gun, it just looks like I'm not working very hard, right? Because I'm being as efficient as I can. Now, if I'm going to practice that with the trigger press, it's going to look something like this. Took me about 1/4 second longer. Okay? So here's what I'd like you to do for your drive practice. If you have a Mantis X, it'll measure their compressed trigger pressing action. I forgot exactly what the name of the drill is. It's really good for that. And you can see, set your par timer. You want to react to the beep. As soon as you hear the beep, press the trigger. So if I set the par timer up, you can download one on the internet, put it on your smartphone. But I'd be standing like this, finger on the trigger, and I'm waiting for the beep, beep, and then I want to press. What I really want to do is watch as much as I can what happens to the sights. Are the sights moving? Okay, remember our driving analogy. It's throttle and vision. How much of the road ahead can I see? How hard can I press the throttle and still maintain control of what I'm doing? All right. And nobody ever talks about it. You know, there's been some pretty good statistical studies that driving slower than traffic is incredibly dangerous to everybody else. All right. So, you know, there's a certain thing that we have to do. We know when we get on a highway, there's an acceptable margin of speed. Too fast is not good, too slow is not good. You don't get to choose one or the other. You have to drive with precision as quickly as you can in traffic. It depends where you live too. Like I live in Atlanta, and we have people from all over the nation, so we've got a combined driving style that feels like we're going to play NASCAR out on the freeway. Everybody drives at 85 bumper to bumper. All right? If you came from the country, you're not used to that, it's really overwhelming. And the same thing, you know, I go someplace and it's much slower. I have to really tell myself, all right, I'm on a road that may be gravel. I need to slow down a little bit. I need to see better. What is my vision? And what changes my vision on the road? Well, if it's raining, I can't go as fast. If the target's smaller or obscured, or I'm injured, or my heart rate's through the roof and I'm having a hard time settling down, those things all depend on how I'm going to see it. Well, let's talk about the final thing here, which is follow through. I'm not a big fan of the word follow through because it has a different meaning for a lot of folks. I like to say process, stay in the process. I'm going to draw the gun, I'm going to get my finger to the trigger, I'm going to see the sight move me, I'm going to gently press it to the rear. As I press that, where was the sights? Is it an acceptable shot? If it was an acceptable shot, do I need another? If it's an unacceptable shot, then I definitely need another, and I start the whole loop again. So I'm going to continuously do that by what I'm seeing. If I don't remain in the now, and I don't become the best observer ever, I won't be able to see the process. So you need to call your shots when you're drive practicing. I have 3 targets right here. I do El Presidente, which is draw, fire 2 on each, reload, fire 2 on each. Great processing drill. And I'm moving the gun quickly in transition. If I don't like what I see, I need to make up that shot. All right. There should be no difference in shooting. You should shoot the sights as they come up, and you shouldn't just shoot one and hope it hits. You should see what you need to see. We say that a lot, but that sight movie you should be incredibly involved in it. What happens is people either live in the past. Oh, the last shot was horrible. I'm a horrible shooter. I live in the future. I hope I don't screw this up. None of those things help you. You must see the sights, so I want you to really turn it up in drive practice. And as you practice, all you want to do is see that thing. See it straight where it is and constantly clean it up as much as you can. And get that trigger finger to move at the speed that the sight tells you can on the size of the target. All right, and that's your process. Do I need to fire another shot? Do I need to fight more? Has he run away? Is he out of the fight? Did I miss the target? Okay, am I likely to miss the target? Those things all do it. People who do things really slow hate to be rushed. They just hate it. You know, it's hard to get them to go anywhere. They're slow at everything they do. And making slow mistakes is the same as making fast mistakes. All right? I don't see any improvement. And people who like to go fast, they lack patience sometimes. They just can't spend that 1/4 second to see what they need to see. All right? If you're fast or slow, you need to be decisive. Have I seen enough of this? Is this acceptable relative to the target? Max Michel has 3 sight pictures that he likes to refer to. One is a flash. So if I was this far from the guy and the sights are coming up and I just need to see a flash of that front sight, that's appropriate. Floating. I need to get it in that upper bullseye right there. Well, it can float everywhere around there. I want to make sure it's in that black part. all right? And then focused. I got to put it in that little tiny circle. I want the most precise shot I can. So speed of vision, we're going to have flash, floating, and focused. We're going to press the trigger either quickly, carefully, or precisely, and we're going to watch what happens with our sights. We don't get recoil, so the only thing that's of interest to us is what happens as we press the trigger. If you see the sights disappear, or you blink, or you nod away, you don't pay attention in your mind, you worry about it, or you're just doing it as fast as you can and not paying attention, those are the things that you need to incorporate, and that'll help you with your follow-through and your process. So practice from a low ready, practice from compressed, practice your draw to different sized targets, and then watch what the front sights do. Then practice multiple targets, transitioning as quickly as you can with different sized targets. It's very helpful. You'll get really good at it. There's so much you can do in dry practice because you don't get the reward of shooting. The only thing you get the reward of is seeing your sights and pressing the trigger in the proper cadence of shooting. I hope this helps you guys. It's been a real pleasure working with you guys. A lot of us are going through tough times right now, and this has been a real godsend for me to be able to spend some time with you guys and focus on what I do and maybe help some of you get a little bit better at shooting. If you have any questions, reach out to us. We're thecompletecombatant.com, and please continue to watch active self-protection videos. I highly recommend that you get a Mantis X. There's a lot of good stuff in there and a lot of stuff that you can work on. So everybody get to work, get some practice, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the range.